Photolux. Joana Choumali. She's a photographer. She's from Côte d'Ivoire, and she's been working in photography since several years, and always her work is about research about identity, especially as identity as a woman. And this is Patrick Willocq. He grew up in Congo, and then he went back to Congo when he decided to change his life and become a photographer, and he worked there on a very interesting project on the traditional ritual that Pygmy tribe has over there. So we start with you, Willocq, and I would like to know from you the reason why you decided to work on this project in this particular way, why you decided to work in Congo first. Maybe you can tell us a bit about your background.
Okay, so thank you. Hi everybody. So as Maria said, I actually grew up in Congo when I was a kid. Actually, it was a year back then, and I was back in 2009 for the first time in 27 years. And decided to spend time in the country, so went up north where the Pygmies actually are in the forest. And since my first encounter with these tribes, I've basically gone back over the last 6 years, two or three times a year. I came across my first wale 3 years ago. What is a wale? A wale is a young woman that gave birth to her first child. It doesn't matter whether it's a boy or a girl, but the clan, her father, will basically decide that she becomes a wale. Wale literally means primiparous nursing mother, so she's a mother that basically gave birth for the first time and is nursing her first child. And she goes in seclusion. She leaves her husband together with the baby, goes back to the hut of a monk, and she receives her initiation. It's an initiation how to become a mother. And it's also a birth control program, because those girls are very young, typically 15, 16, 17 years old. And since this is the first child, it's important that he survives, because it's the heir, so a lot of attention is given to them. So I came across my first wale, and I was obviously mesmerized by this woman in red. And I started to spend time. I was really fascinated by this woman, so I started to spend time with them over the years, and starting to see, sort of routine between wales, what they did, what they could not do, and I started to understand that they were actually quite protected. So I started to do a lot of photography, which was more journalistic reportage type of photography, in black and white actually. 24x36 camera, but I felt that I was not going deep enough with my photography, and it's only until I attended the Seclusion Ending Festival, which is basically the celebration where the wale comes out, where she's going to sing and she's going to talk about everything that she's felt while she was in seclusion, all her dreams, the worries that she had, and so on.
She spent some time.
Yeah. Because she spent years, actually, typically 2 years, but it could be more.
And she only can come out of seclusion. When is she allowed to come out of seclusion?
Well, she's allowed to come out of seclusion once she basically has put together this choreography, this song and dance program. And so I witnessed one of those, and then I realized that basically she was singing during 3 or 4 hours everything that she has felt the last 3 years, and that being an oral tradition, this would disappear the next day. So I felt that I needed to understand the songs, that the songs were at the root of the ritual, and that maybe the songs would help me, guide my photography. So I had the chance to meet the ethnomusicologist Congolese, and we went back together there, and we started to record the songs. And he helped me translate them. And it's not just a question of translation, but it's also a question of decoding, because each word translation doesn't mean much. And basically, through this decoding, I started to understand what these wales were singing about, and I started to sketch drawing of what I was listening. And once I had a few drawings, then the idea was to start building, that particular image. So the image that you're looking at here is sang by Wale Kosala, and she basically, talks about the fact that she's very strong and very good compared to other wales. And she says, be careful of other wales. There's a lot of rivalry and competition between wales. She's basically saying, be careful, because I am a leopard, and I am stronger than you. So by listening to the song, this is my visual interpretation of her song. So basically, when you are looking at an image, you are looking at a song.
At a song. So you basically decided that the best way to explain to people like us about this tradition was to not to use the traditional language of reportage, but you decided to use a different way of visually representing these stories.
Yeah, because I felt that, photographing an African woman singing or dancing or breastfeeding, there's tons of that, and I was not bringing anything new to the table. And at the same time, I really wanted, because those women are associated as queens in their society, there's a lot of taboos, and the more they respect those taboos, the more they are respected and honored, the more prestige they have, and so forth. And so I really wanted to...
So if you only see an image of a woman in our society, if you see an image of a woman naked dancing, you don't really associate it with the idea of a queen.
Not at all, yeah. And it was also a way for me to involve, because I didn't want to steal pictures, but I wanted to have them participate to the whole creation process. And this project has become now a community art project.
Yes, tell us a bit on how you actually make these images. Because first of all, do you use any kind of post-production editing on these images? I know that everybody else do that.
Yeah.
And then how do you realize them?
So I don't use, obviously, develop the images on Lightroom, but I don't do collage, no Photoshop montage, whatever. Everything that you see is actually built. So the stage is 35 square meters. You're looking at basically the width of the image is 7 meters, and the height of the image is 5 meters. That's the backdrop. So that's 35 square meters, and I also have 35 square meters on the floor. So I basically have 70 square meter stage. And I basically work using materials from the forest. So I've got a team predominantly of pygmies that work with me, and together we create this using materials of the forest and their know-how. So for instance, I will look at having spent 6 years in the village, I started to understand how they make baskets, how they make fishing nets, how they make huts, how they make other stuffs. And I'm using their technology, and with that, I'm creating new objects. So for instance, with the fishing basket technology, we've built a plane, but it's their know-how on how to use materials from the forest.
But then, so where do you start from? You start from the song, right? So you told me that you need the song to be translated to you, and you need the wale to agree to participate in the project.
Yeah, definitely. So the song is the starting. The song is the selection criteria of whether the work with the wale or not depends on the song, and whether because we are actually with Martin looking for a stanza, which is a part of the song where she talks about something extraordinary. We're looking for this, and sometimes the repertoire of wale are more because the music is not creative enough, and sometimes the repertoire is very rich, and that helps me to come up with those creations. So the process is listen to the song, do a sketch drawing, discuss it with the ethnomusicologist and the wale, making sure that I'm representing accurately what the song talks about, and then if this is validated by everybody, then we start building it.
Together in the village. Yeah. It becomes the project of the village.
yeah, it became a community art project because I've got not only my team who's involved in this, but I've got kids that are helping. I've got all the papas that are coming to show me what they can do with their hands, whether I might need it one day. Mamas are helping us also. I mean, the whole community is involved in this project. I couldn't do all of that alone. For instance, on this picture, we were probably with 15 kids, trying to fix those leaves everywhere. So that's very fun actually process as well.
And what's the reaction of this? Of course, you've shown them these images, right?
Yeah. I'm making a point to always. I bring back every image that I take. If I take a picture with 10 people inside, I will bring back 10 pictures to make sure that I don't create any jealousies. And they obviously love it. And I think they react any picture with them, whether it's that creation or a more simple picture, we get probably the same reaction. But I know that this is validated because they recognize themselves. And I've had people that came to me and said, people in the village, for instance, that come to me and said, Patrick, you did well here because you really, transcribed well what the song is about. So I know I'm getting that feedback, which is a validation for me.
What you see is you get the validation even before starting the work. You discuss with them about the song.
Yeah.
You have to show them that you understand.
Yeah, definitely. But having the final validation, having the validation throughout the process is obviously important. And having the final validation is definitely. So I know that that will work well together as a team.
Can you describe some of these images? Can you tell us?
Yeah. So here that's Wale. She's 19 years old. She has spent 3 years in seclusion now. Wale at the beginning was she didn't want to work with me. She did not trust me. It took her a year basically to finally come to me and because she saw that I was working with other wales and she wanted to start working with me. And here on this song, she basically complains to her dad and she says, well, the whole time that I was in seclusion, my dad didn't look well at me, and I was, instead of having a proper bed, I was sleeping on a bed made of leaves and bush, but it's okay, the wind can blow through the house, but but I resist, and I can be on my bed, so basically we built a huge bed, full of leaves, with that expression of hers, which is really, she's over basically the situation,
because they're acting in this pictures, they're kind of direct them even in the poses or the.
Yeah, so obviously I direct a lot because they don't have necessarily the link to the image is something foreign for them. But this being said, I find that there's a universality actually of pose, and that those women sometimes are very, very surprised despite the environment where we are and the grace and the femininity that this forest women have, which is really, really amazing.
That's another image you want to say something about.
Yeah, so here you've got Wale Makita, which is upside down, and then Wale Lokito, which is sitting down. That's one of my first pictures. Those two wales are very dear to me because they are the first two that accepted actually to work with me on this project. Both of them are out of seclusion now. Lokito has a second child, she's named Patrick, and Makita also has a second child, but she's a girl, so she's not named Patrick. But here, Makita compares herself to a bat. And for pygmies, a bat is they don't know how to classify the bat, whether it's an animal or a bird. And that's why Lokito is holding, the duck and this wild cat. And basically through this song, she's saying, I am a bat, I dance better than you, I dance in a unique way. You won't be able to copy me. And by expressing her badness, she's basically saying to the other wale, you know, I am unique, you know, and I am completely different than you. So obviously for this, when I heard this song, you know, the dream was, okay, let's use the bat, you know, and then the challenge, because I wanted the wale to be upside down. The challenge was actually to make that happen. But they understood, because yeah, the bat, you know, the bat lives upside down. But since this was the beginning of the project, the level of security is very high. I mean, because we tested it, and we pulled on it, and you know, we really tried hard to, because I couldn't afford any accident. But this picture was, it took 1 minute. I had 1 minute. I had 5 days to build this picture. We laid leaves during the whole day, and at the last minute, because banana leaves are very, very fragile. So during 2 hours, we tried to piece the leaves, and then I had left the track in front. And then, you know, the wale came, and we brought her upside down, and then the leaves too close. I ran to the camera. I took 10 or 15 shots, and then it was time to, you know, to release her, because we had known that after 1 minute, you know, blood really gets to your head, and it's not a comfortable position to be at. So, yeah, so that was quite an image.
How long does it take you usually to take one of these pictures?
I shoot in the dry season for tourism, because it's dry, obviously, so less rain, and also because of the light. I work at about, I take my pictures at about 5 p.m. in the evening. In the dry season, you always have high-level clouds, and at about 5 p.m. the sun is not strong enough to go through the cloud anymore, so the sky becomes a giant softbox. You know, so it's a diffuse light all over the village, and I get high light but no shadows at this particular time. So I've got a window of opportunity every night of about 45 minutes. Half an hour before the sun is too strong still, and half an hour later, I would say 45 minutes later, it's dark, it's black. So it's quite stressful actually, because I know that, you know, we build something like that, and I've got 45 minutes, so you make better work.
I want to ask something to Joana. Joana, tell us a bit about your background and why you decided to work with projects. I'm Ivorian, I live in Abidjan. I'm a mother, I'm married, and I started photography as a way to explore my environment and explore to accompany my journey. And when I started photography, I was working in an advertising agency as an art director. But as Patrick said, I needed more. I needed to create my own images to express myself and explore things that I couldn't explore while I was working in an advertising agency. And I started working as a commercial photographer. I did a lot of portraits. And most of the people that I could take the portrait of were people living in the city from wealthy background. And this helped me connect with people, know what they feel, how they react to their own image. And while I was working on this commercial side, I felt the need to work on my personal projects. And at this time, my grandmother passed away. And I realized that as a mixed person, my mother is from Spain and Guinea Equatorial, and my father is from the Ivory Coast, I wasn't really connected to my African, my Ivorian side. I didn't speak enough Ani is the language of my father, to connect with my grandmother, to understand what was doubt and what she lived in her youth, or what was her expectations. And also I lacked information about the culture, the traditional culture of my ethnic group. But still, I always felt like a real Ivorian. I'm really proud to be Ivorian. I live all my life in Abidjan, and I consider myself as an Ivorian, even if I'm not considered as a typical Ivorian. And I looked for women who were living in the city, traveling, living a very modern life, like a New Yorker or a Milanese or Parisian, but who, as me, lacked a connection with their culture. And I asked them to pose in the traditional outfit of their origins, but especially outfit that was worn by their mother or their grandmother. And it was really, really important for me to make them experience what I couldn't experience. And we started by looking for the outfits and the way the makeup was done. And by doing these pictures, we kind of connected together with this ritual. It became like a magical ritual, because many of them were coming with jeans and sneakers, like every that you can meet in the city, and they would change the attitude. They would feel like some presence of for example, the grandmother or the mother, and it also impacted the way they would react by the way the relationship that they had with their mothers. So this project is really about identity, but also cultural heritage and the link between past and present in the contemporary Africa.
Because it was a real process, right? I think for you and for them. How did you actually do this? Because they came to your studio, so
yes,
it was research before.
Yes, it was a research before. I would meet them, and most of them are mixed like me. So I would ask them to pose in the outfit of the culture they feel that they are not close enough. It was really important also that the clothes were already worn, old clothes, not clothes that we could buy in the shops.
So they had to go through a process themselves to go back
Yes.
to their families.
Yes, they had to go back to their family, sometimes to the village, and ask for. Sometimes the grandmother was not living anymore, and they had to ask an aunt or do some researches and come back to my studio with outfits, and we would choose the outfit together
You would talk about that in a way.
Yes, we
talked
talked about that.
It was kind of not the chat was. I mean, you told me once when we talked about this that it was a process that involved them, but involved you as well.
Yes, because first I learned a lot about the traditional outfits, the cultures of women, and also about the stories that they wanted to share while we were shooting. Some of them gave me some really intimate information about their family life or the things they were going through as women nowadays. And also, most of them would say, "Oh, I don't recognize myself. I'm so different now. I feel like I'm seeing my grandmother or my mother." And most of them cried too, or had very strong feelings. Sometimes it was a mix of shame of not knowing this mother or this grandmother, or also, and it was also pride. It was really mixed feelings. And this was really interesting because it helped me go through many things myself, and it was relieving to know that I was not the only one in this case. And by discussing, we realized that what we've concluded by saying, okay, people say that we're not African enough, but what is African enough? Who can decide what is African? And we decided to reappropriate ourselves, our culture, and being able to go to the village or talk, speak a language doesn't make us less or more African. We are African, we live in Africa, we have an African lifestyle, and we sort of decided to embrace it and to not apologize.
Actually, when I first saw this project, I remember that I felt immediate connection with that, because I personally think it doesn't speak only to an African woman, it speaks to women in general, because we all have this struggle with the past, the tradition, if we live more modern, emancipated life, then we struggle to conceive it with.
Yes, I met many European women who were coming to my show, and they would say, yes, I can relate to this, because as a Breton from France, I never wear my traditional outfit. I don't speak Breton, but I still, I never ask myself if it's a good or a bad thing. But why in Africa people always say, oh, you're not a real African because you don't dance the traditional dance, you don't speak the traditional language. Feeling African is something that you have inside of you, and it's not a matter of criteria, it's just something that you feel, and that's it.
Is this the picture you were telling me about, the woman who...
Yes, Sukaina is, she studies in Bordeaux. She's from a very well-known family in Côte d'Ivoire. Her father is Senegalese, but her mother is from Bassam. Bassam is a very well-known city. It was the first capital of Côte d'Ivoire, and colonial capital of Côte d'Ivoire. And she is part of the royal family of Bassam. And for this shooting, she came with her mother, because her mother had to ask her permission to the royal family to take this particular outfit that was owned by his great-grandmother, and also the jewelry. And she came only with this outfit only for the shooting. And then 1 hour after, they went back to Bassam to give it back to the royal family. And what was really overwhelming, emotionally overwhelming, is that she came with her mother posed with her too. And her mother came with a portrait of the great-grandmother. And it was really something magical, because they were both crying, because they felt, they said that it was like they were feeling the presence of the great-grandmother in the studio. And this, even by talking about that, I get, it was really a strong experience.
but we cried so much. I don't know what happened for this project. We couldn't even explain. The energy was really, really strong in the studio, and even the makeup artist who worked on the project, who wasn't scheduled in the projects, finally said, "I don't know what's happening here, but by working on this project, I want to be part of it," because I thought about myself each time that we were shooting. When I was coming back home, I was asking myself some questions about my own identity, and she realized that even being for both parents from Côte d'Ivoire, from the Bambara tribe, she was still not accepted fully as a real African, because she had a very modern lifestyle, and blonde hair, blonde dyed hair, and she said, "Okay, in a certain way, I would like to participate in this project because I'm also questioning myself in this whole process."
So I have a question for both. I have two more questions for both of you, and then maybe we see if the public has more questions. One is I think you both tried to talk about Africa or about African identities of the issue in a way that is not traditional, because you wanted to show something that you think is not well described. And I wanted to know if talking with your people who visited your shows or interviewed you about your work, you felt you managed to have this kind of change. Well, the reason you started, that's the reason you decided to.
I think for me one of the strongest motivation actually to try to show what I would say was to try to show a different image of the Congo. Before going back there, as I was saying earlier, before going back there in 2009, even I knew, because I grew up there, had a misconceived idea based on what I was reading in the media. And at that time, when I was going to Congo, my friends were saying, "You should be going there, there's war everywhere, it's very dangerous," and so on and so forth. And I went there, and I discovered a reality which is actually totally different to what I was reading in the press. Now, it's not to say that what you read in the press is not true, and I don't deny it. It is happening, and that's predominantly happening actually in the east of the country. And it's been going on for the last 150 years, and unfortunately it's probably not going to change because there's too many vested interests in the fact that there is instability and war there because of the minerals. But basically the image of Congo is completely dependent on what's happening in the West, and people have a general idea that there is war and rape and famine and refugees everywhere in Congo, and that's not true. And through my work, actually, I hope to show a different Congo and a different Africa in general, because I am tired of seeing always the same cliché images of Africa. There is another Africa, and that's the one that I love, that's the one that I grew up in, and that's the one that I want to show in my work. So that's really a strong motivation for doing the images that I'm doing.
Also add that I'm coming from a middle class family, and when I was a child, I would never see happy, normal from my point of view, African people. What we see is war and starving children, but there is also another Africa where people live happily and love to live. And the contemporary Africa is now have an influence of many cultures, and we are the result of a cultural mix. And I feel that now African artists from all over the world can allow themselves to show this other Africa, the Africa that has contradiction, but still is what it is. It's a way to say we are perfect, but which culture is perfect? We are as we are who we are, and we should stop apologizing and just working on our own identity in order to develop and to be part of the whole world family.
And you talk to
Yes, and my
woman, not only as African.
yes, and my subject, my series start from Africa, but I can feel that all the topics that I'm talking about can touch Scandinavian or Japanese. It's most of the core subject, the core of the subjects are common to every culture. So I really hope that now there will be more and more voice to show another point, Africa from another point of view, and more
Rounded or complete or
more complete, yes, more complete view of Africa.
And I have the last question. How was when you brought back or you show back these images or you talked about this work? Because your works actually are, both of them are strongly linked to ancestral tradition. So what was the reaction? How did it impact, right, in some way your environment, the people you showed it work? How did they see themselves?
Well, personally, the communities that the communities that I work with are very involved in that process. But I always bring back, all the pictures, but also magazines and newspaper cutouts and the press that the wales are getting. And I can't tell you how proud people are, to see that they are, famous for it, and that they, that the wales and their culture is going around. Because no matter how remote and deep in the jungle I go, you're still going to have intellectuals. You're still going to have older people that were there on the colonial routes that speak very well French, very educated people, or even some teachers today that maybe might have studied in Kinshasa and because of lack of a job they went back to their village. So I discuss with those people, and those people are aware of the bad image that Congo has. They are aware of the struggle of the country and so on. So they are very proud to see that people outside of Congo are actually looking at them and interested in their culture. So that's another important validation for me, and actually to thank everybody on my next trip there to pursue other works with the wales. I will bring back huge prints of 3 meter by 2 meter, 10 of those, and I will actually do an exhibition in the village, on bamboo scaffolding, and to actually, have, a bush exhibition, for the lack of a better word.
Festival of the Jungle.
Yeah, and yes, the Festival of the Jungle, yeah, you're all invited. And we've also shot, we also produced a TV documentary that will be shown early next year on French TV channel. And I also will bring a projector back and do night projection, as a way to celebrate together with the people that have supported me all these years.
And maybe we will see here next year Photolux.
For the winner who posed for the project, most of them were really proud of being part of it. Some of them were regretting the fact that they couldn't find old outfits to be part of the project. For example, this woman is really special story. She's half Sudanese, half Ivorian, and she was really into. She was not facing issues in her life. She told me that she was not facing own issues. By seeing herself in the pictures, she saw another woman, and she told me after the project, I changed many things in my life. And I could face my fears and become the person that I wanted to become after the show. And also, I don't know if you agree with that, but in Africa or other countries, the norm is to be the closer possible to Occidental norm. And by seeing themselves in, most of them were like, oh, I cannot wear the traditional outfit. Well, I want to wear the Western and more contemporary. Yes, because I'm all fashion. They're always in sneakers and mini skirts, and they don't see themselves. They wasn't able to see themselves in such this way. And they said, finally, I can accept myself more, and I'm proud of being African. And when the series went on the internet, when I shared it on social media, I received a lot of messages of women, of African women, or women just women from all over the world saying, oh, this is so beautiful, and we must see more images of really beautiful African women. And this, there's this, in French, there's this expression, la vraie femme africaine. Always the real African woman comes up often, especially in Ivory Coast, la vraie femme africaine. And we are always making jokes about why they say la vraie femme africaine. Why is there a fake femme africaine? And this is what is interesting about the series, the fact that the way people react is really different. And I like the fact that we can discuss over this.
So I think, do you have questions? You want to ask them something? You want to know something more about these images or the process or their work?
No, it's not perfect.
Did you make yourself a picture like this for yourself?
I was asked that. She asked if
You know what she had? Did you make yourself a picture like this?
when I started working on this project, I didn't feel strong enough to be in front of the camera. And this series started in introspection. And through my work, I become more daring. And now I think that I feel ready to pose for the project. But every woman asks me, why don't you pose for the project? And I was like, no, I'm just a photographer, I'm not a model, I won't be able to pose. And I didn't need, it wasn't a need for me to pose for the project because each woman was really through my posing. So I didn't feel the need to pose myself.
Where is the border between performance and photography, like photoreportage?
Say that again, sorry.
Where is the border between photography and performance in your picture?
It's very blurred. It's very blurred because the act of photographing actually is just the last 45 minutes of the process. You know, by the time I spend time with wale, understanding her songs, working on all of these relationship issues, and then doing the sketch and construction and so on. Sometimes there are weeks. Sometimes the picture takes me just to build. It takes me 10 days. You know, and it's a full installation. It's almost as if I'm building a theater. You know, it's a theater backdrop that I'm building. So the act of photography is just the last few minutes. Basically, it's the way for me to record the work that we have done. The process is much greater. The process is much greater up front.
Any other question?
Is an external back? Oh, sorry.
Microphone.
Sorry. Do you shot in exterior or in, I don't know.
I shoot.
Or in a studio?
No, there's no studio in the jungle.
I mean structure.
No, I shoot outdoor. You know, this is outdoor in the middle of the village. For the reasons that I've explained earlier on, is that I need the natural light. There's no flash either, and I'm shooting outdoor at about 5 p.m. every night. Yeah.
It would be very difficult to set up something like that in a set up something like that in outdoor. It put a lot of time, so all the stuff maybe can be damaged by nature or by not the time, può essere danneggiato dagli elementi atmosferici, non so, vento, vai, che potrebbero demolire il set. Non so,
Okay, that is really weak. Is that it's really delicate that you did. It can be ruined by the wind or the rain or everything.
Yeah, I can. And I've had it happen obviously on a few occasions where I've had to demolish, I've had to undo what I had built the whole day because rain would come. Or there's another picture which you see here that I talked about the leaves earlier on, where as we had finished actually wind came and half of the leaves that we had put one by one on the floor, had to be redone. So yeah, you work under that environment, but I guess but it's not a big issue. Generally it goes generally quite well. It's part of the fun.
Yes, the village people are happy.
Yeah, it's part of the process.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. What are you doing once the picture is done with the film that takes you in?
Some of the stuffs you can't really tell, but I recycle some of the stuff. So for instance, if I use a green set of leaves, I might try them, and use them for another picture. Or there's a picture where we built a huge canvas, which actually we've demolished and we used as a frame for the wale that's inside the bed. That's actually the same object, but changed and modified, but you can't see it. And very often, actually, villagers walk away with props that we built. The picture of the plane, the plane stayed in the middle of a village during a year and a half, hanging on a tree. And it obviously got rotten by the weather, and then last time that I was there, actually, I was there for 3 months, and at the beginning of the trip, the plane was there, and at the end of the trip, the plane had gone. But they keep it, and that's what I like about it. Is that people are also keeping the stuff that we built because they're really proud because they've participated to the building process and they are themselves surprised. And they walk around saying, "Hey, I've built a plane. I know how to build a plane now, so I want to keep that plane." So it's a very fun process.
Allora, grazie a tutti. Thank you. Thank you to Patrick and to Joana to share your work with us.